My favorite part about part 3 was the bro fist bump that
Mm,
that
and the
like
submarine.
that has no lead up and is not talked about at the moment and never talked about after the fact.
The one in the submarine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how in the manga apparently it's just like one little shot, but they just went with it. It's fucking great.
They have this huge complex like ritual that they do to greet each other.
Yep.
And no one reacts, which tells me it's happened off camera lots
Hmm.
of times. But like why?
Hang on.
I love it.
I know.
Well, you
Can
and
I
your
have links?
weeaboo shit, yeah.
Shut up.
No, that's cool. Um,
And all right.
Oh my god,
hentai
as soon as you type in Polnareff, immediately Polnareff and Kakyoin handshake.
All right. So first off, I'll have you know, hentai is art.
Here you go.
I mean, yes, that's true.
I'm putting it in a watch together, you big bastards.
Well, no.
Yes.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
But
we're doing the show
copyright.
now, actually, and
Oh,
also
that's right. Yeah,
yeah.
damn it. Fuck.
So, no.
Damn it.
Good try. Anyway.
Gotta say something more than just no. So it doesn't really help me when you say just no.
Well,
Hi, I'm your second
no.
host. It's TTRPGs.
Ah, hey. Well, welcome back to TableTalk discussion and discourse.
And I tried to post copyrighted materials in there.
You did.
Because I forgot copyright was a thing. Because I tried to not live my life bound by copyright, Alejo.
Well, it's unfortunate.
I know. I'm just fucking around.
But yeah, we're here. We're back. Hello. How are you guys doing?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I refuse to answer.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Just acknowledgement in any way. That was all I needed.
And I'm eating spaghetti sandwiches.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, hey, Dracker Kraken, how's it going? Yeah, so today we're here. We're for you. It's episode 66, boys. It's been a while, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see how long this one goes because the subject matter seems very simple to go over, but we will get to it in a moment here. So we have comments, 2 comments only to go through before we begin with the main topic.
It'll only take an hour and 45 minutes.
Yes, exactly. So starting off, last episode, we were talking about homebrew campaign tips, and August 3 says, years ago, I came to a campaign for Pathfinder 1E where the guy had his own homebrew rules that removed dice rolls from the game. I was sitting at the table with 5 others as he explained it and handed out documents for us about his system, where he just uses averages to predetermine if you could succeed in such a thing or not. Oh.
Questionable, but okay.
I wish I still had the digital version of the document because it's the strangest read. The removal of dice makes the game less fun and felt too safe, as it was easy for players to predict odds with their modifiers and flat averages, to what they were doing, from how they were getting around obstacles using tools to what they say in social situations. It felt alien in a bad way. Not a lot of players who gathered liked the system and opted out like I did.
Yeah, like the problem with that is when you take averages of the party, it means no one stands out as being particularly good at anything.
Everybody's pretty much the same.
Yeah, like if one person has a big dick perception modifier, and has a real nice spot listen, and we won't say his name,
right? Of course, we won't.
We all know who we're referring to.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, the person who's not a character anymore. Yeah, like, you miss out on, like, one person standing out from the rest of the party as being really good at something.
Yeah.
And B, you also know that, like, oh, an acrobatics check will fail every time
Yeah, that's so
because
weird.
our cumulative modifier is a -1, and we're just going to fail every single time, so why even bother doing acrobatics?
Yeah.
Mm.
Slice has 3 more to go for our episodes. Yeah, and then we get to
Nice.
the number. Nice. And hey, how's it going, Road Rage? Yeah. So the other thing that I gotta say is, of course, the removal of dice is less fun for a lot of people. Not for everyone. Some people really like not using dice, for some reason. But again, that is just a personal preference kind of thing. And I agree with you, like, it would be less fun for me, too. It sucks. Because, like, I like my clicky-clacky math rocks, you know?
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. I'll say the most fun alternative method to pass checks was using a Jenga tower, so the more checks you make, the harder it gets. Yeah, there you go. That's a way to do it.
Well, that's the Jenga method, not for writing and homebrewing.
Right, exactly. Like an actual... Huh. Hey, Pizza Funk, how's it going? Yeah, so... Next up, we have, from Lux Armok, as usual, the Longman, with his comments. Okay, here we go. Also on last episode. First thing he says is, prompting someone on video to say that terrorism isn't always evil has been the high point of all my accomplishments. Words cannot express the pride I feel in myself right now. There you go. I'm just not even going to explain it. Go watch the past episode if you don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, we're on a list. It's cool. He goes on with another thing. As far as GMPCs go, I've used one in every campaign I've ever run, and I've been a player in plenty of campaigns where the GM was using one. Actually, come to think of it, I think I've only been in a grand total of 3 campaigns where there were no GMPC, and 2 of them didn't even really get off the ground. Really, they're not a problem unless the GM has some wrong-headed ideas. But I'll wait until I get to the episode where you talk about them before I say much more. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. We talked about that more at length in that, whichever one that was. I don't remember the number. Anyway, on to the main topic. Isn't a homebrew campaign, with quotations, just a campaign?
Yes.
Yeah, usually.
One would hope that it has some mechanics that lie outside the rules,
Yes.
or like is a custom setting and
Yes.
whatnot.
Exactly.
But most campaigns are pretty much written by the DM in general, no matter the setting. So
yeah, I mean, you can be really pedantic and say like every module is a campaign. So, but
well, every module is a not every module. Most modules are campaigns.
Yeah, and which it's just like that's not technically homebrewed unless you actually do change it a bit, you know.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to try a modifier deck like Gloomhaven that the players can kind of customize. Having played the video game version of Gloomhaven, that'd be interesting because I know what you're talking about. I don't know how well it would work for the current TTRPG kind of things for each of the systems, but it would be interesting to see it work out. Like you pull different like attacks and such. I don't know. Anyway, so one of these guys recommends railroading, the other recommends a technique I prefer to call not railroading. Yes.
So, a technique and not a technique.
It's railroading and not railroading, TM.
I would say the first rule of running any game is to know your players, or more precisely, be able to read them. Be sure to fit your DMing style to the experience they're after, and don't try to drag them through something that's going to leave them dissatisfied because you're convinced that you know the right way to roleplay. If you know your players are looking for a dungeon crawl and combat, give them a dungeon crawl and combat. If they're telling you how they sure do wish there would be a few more combat encounters, don't drag them through another month of wandering through towns and dealing with obstructive bureaucrats while telling them not every problem has to be solved by stabbing it. You're being asked for some problems that can be solved by stabbing them. If you do throw a combat encounter at them and they talk their way through it, then that's on them, but at least try. Establishing expectations in session 0 goes a long way, but make sure that you establish accurate expectations, and it still won't save your campaign if you just aren't willing to provide the experience your players are after. But do actually have a session 0. Well, yeah, of course. On a very specific note, don't require characters to have the same gender as their players. That's just ridiculous. I will walk away immediately.
What? Oh, okay, yeah, don't.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think anybody...
I thought they were saying that some people did require that, and I was gonna be like, we.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
some
sure
people do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure there are some people. Actually, no, I do know of some stories of some people saying like they had a DM who was like, "Yeah, I need you to play your gender because I don't want to get confused otherwise." And I was like, okay.
You can't keep it in your mind
Right.
that one of your characters is not male or
Right.
female.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I'm purely auditory. My brain doesn't work otherwise.
And apparently they don't do voices.
Yeah, apparently. So
of any type.
Hey, you know your warrior princess? I heard her speaking with a male voice and got confused and then thought she was male.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're having a whole other problem.
Never mind the whole 5 pages of backstory I got.
Right, yeah. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Also, know the actual rules of the game you're running. Don't just half-ass it because you think the system is stupid, but you're using it anyway. When players take abilities, they expect those abilities to actually function the way the book says they will. Yeah, for that last bit, to an extent, yes, but also if you're in your session 0 and you say, these aren't going to work exactly the same way, they're going to work like this, then you've established that, right?
Yeah.
I assume that that is something that is not, like, that's already been thought of by you, so no worries there. I just want to make it clear for everybody else.
Hey, odd question,
Sure.
Totally not related to this.
You go, okay?
Where do the Sorrowsworn live again?
That's
dark place.
Yeah, that's the
Shadowfell.
Shadowfell. Yeah.
Shadowfell, thank you.
Yes. And I know the D&D economy is fucked, but either use it or replace it with one of your own. Don't just make it so players are lucky to find a copper because realism, but still have magic items cost thousands of gold. And players are going to want magic items. You're keeping some of the most fun things away from them by making those inaccessible. And you're messing up the game balance while you're at it. Oh, so not for 5e.
I like to have they're walking on the street and then based on like people's perception, they notice a coin on the ground or something because it's their lucky day.
Sure.
Because that happens IRL too.
Yeah.
They have their own sources of income and like adventure and make money. And then also may notice a coin or a copper or a silver on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But yeah, just to reiterate, the D&D economy is too fucked to and like the balancing of it is too fucked to even consider magic items. You don't need a magic item in 5e. You just don't. There is no need for any of them. Unless you make it so that there is a need, in which case you've already thought more than the D&D creators.
Oof.
I would say.
Yeah, at least in that aspect.
Yeah, in that aspect, yeah. Of course, you can have problems in the other direction, where all you do is combat and the players are getting bored of it. In that case, try to deepen your world and let the players see something that isn't a dungeon. If you're not so confident in yourself when it comes to that aspect of DMing, your players will probably be willing to help you through it. Getting into practice and expanding your abilities will be good for you, though. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know how many... It depends on your players. I don't know how many people would be the player's like, oh man, I can't wait to sit down and play D&D. And then all of a sudden you kind of hit them with a curveball where you're like, hey guys, I kind of need you to help me deepen my world. Could you help me? And some people probably would be like, it's not really what I'm here for. And I don't feel all that confident in being able to do that because I just came to play. So,
Yeah, I think the biggest way that you'll find that with just organically doing it is going through their backstories that they make. Right.
Yeah.
Using elements from that to then go, okay, where does that fit? Right. And then changing things to maybe make it more so or less fit in certain areas, or excuse me, conform more with your world, I guess. But I put more emphasis on the former point than the latter because it's much more difficult. It's a much more difficult problem to deal with when you have an elitist DM who thinks they're creating high art by looking down their nose at the actual game. As a player, you can try raising your concerns with them and give them the chance to change their attitude. But if they just give you pushback, save your own sanity and leave.
No.
And this has turned into a rant about a DM I experienced more than 10 years ago. So back on the note of knowing your players, some will be more receptive to the Lego method, quote unquote, than others. If you can just set the world up and have them just go and find stuff to do, that's great. Open world is the style for them. As for the Jenga method, the way it was described in the video is not good. But for players who are less responsive to the open world style, something similar can work. You shouldn't railroad, but if the players aren't proactive, you can narrate them into the next encounter. Obviously, ask them if they want you to do that, and make sure nobody had anything they wanted to do first. And make sure whatever you narrate isn't something their characters wouldn't actually go along with. I would agree. For a group like that, it can help if you get them into the employ of a faction that can give them missions. Oh, yeah, there you go. That way, they can complete each mission, and then you can narrate them into the next mission. But don't ever force them along. If a player wants to do something else before the next mission, then stop and let them do that. The player should always be in control of what they do. And even if you're using this format, you should still try to include ways for the player's choices to change the course of the story. The key point here is don't force, use the method that works best for your group. Exactly. Easy thing to agree with. Steely says, greets all around. I've been waiting to hear about the firearms and fantasy topics, so I'm really looking forward to it. Well, good, Steely, because literally I couldn't think of anything for this week, so I took that from your suggestion. Hey!
We're all out of ideas, folks.
Yep, that's what that means.
We lasted 66 episodes.
Yep.
All right, guys, we're out of ideas. That means you, the viewer, control the stream. Tell us what topics to cover next week with the donation.
Oh, god damn it. I was gonna say I'm always open to topics from people, but you don't have to fucking donate, please, god damn it.
Please don't. Please don't.
My table flip
unless if you can unless if you're fiscally able to do so.
Desire so. Like that.
Yes.
Please don't do it otherwise. My table flipping is reserved for a certain enterprise software vendor that is making me rage at work. There you go. Glad to be of help. A winner is me. Donate, you say? Draco Kraken, stop. Just no.
Oh, Jesus.
Stop it. Don't make me have to open the dashboard, I swear to fucking god. Anyway.
Draco Kraken. Bad.
Bad. Stop. That's an odd way to say you're going to do a 4E campaign. That is true. That is something that we should talk about at some point, the 4E in general, which I've been compiling some stuff. But we'll get there. We'll get there. That's when we super run out of ideas. Anyway, so, as was stated, today we're going to be talking about the use of firearms in your fantasy setting. Now, a lot of people are, one way or the other. Open it, you won't. God damn it! Shut up, Dragon Cracker. Don't do this. So a lot of people are one way or the other. A lot of people really hate using guns in fantasy RPGs. A lot of people are fine with it. I would love to know before we get into it like proper, what are your thoughts on this?
So
I am the one who is the one that's out of the ordinary. I have literally no thoughts about it.
Oh,
so
I've never even thought of it.
cool.
So I'm part of a campaign where we have an artificer that does use guns. And I've been trying to convince him to make a gun for me that is basically a xenophage from Destiny 2.
Okay.
Except loaded with a soul coin.
Okay.
Just so I can take the charging handle, yank it back, slam it back into place, fly up into the air as an ASMR and fire it down, saying a quick prayer as I do so.
Sure.
Because fuck yeah, and my person collects souls.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that it has as of yet to happen, and the campaign is just about a year old, and I'm sad.
Well,
but I have no real problems with using guns in a fantasy setting. They can be, especially in fantasy, just as interesting as any other weapon can be.
Yeah.
Like for instance, like a longsword in D&D is typically a very like kind of boring weapon. Like whatever, it's just a sword. It just does 1d10. Who cares? There's nothing unique about it. However, like you can add as much flavor as you want to a longsword or a gun or any other thing. Just because it happens to fire a bullet and do damage, making it identical to any other weapon in terms of how it behaves on paper, does not mean it has to be less interesting. Customization is of course a thing. I have no problem with people using guns. There is an issue when it comes to things like if your DM allows you to like use a gun and smite. We have it so that like you can't smite on like a bow and arrow or a gun or anything like that.
Interesting.
Just for game balance reasons.
Okay.
Because it would be a bit wacky to fire a bow and arrow at someone and smite someone for 3d8.
It would be. Yeah, absolutely.
Like so the issue can come from balancing if your DM is not careful about it, just like in really any weapon.
Yeah.
So as such, I think they're not inherently problematic. They do fit better in some settings than others.
Yes.
As such, consider like where how to put it. Consider the technology level of your setting and whether or not it's healthiest to add guns or not.
Yep.
Or maybe have them be in like that sort of point where guns have been invented but they're still incredibly rare. I think they're perfectly fine to have in fantasy.
Yeah. My view on it is they're like you said, they're fine.
Yeah.
I am cool with either them being like gunpowder based or magic based or just like however the fuck you want them to work, right? I think it really depends on so a gun is a powerful piece of technology, right? They are, and this will be said in one of the videos we cover today, but guns were transitioned to because of their ease of use in the sense of training, right? You take a while to learn how to do like your proper feints and parries with a sword, but with a gun you point and shoot, right? Like it's incredibly easy to tell somebody how to use it, not effectively maybe, but they are still a force to be reckoned with because they have a gun, right? So if you want to have your game either properly in there with guns, like as a readily available thing, or you want it to be kind of a scarce thing, it really depends on how you want it to be. You just have to realize that is going to be the case of like people are going to say, why should I learn how to use a sword when I can just point at a guy and that guy will probably die?
Yeah.
Right?
Click.
Yes. And so it also then can raise your concerns of gunpowder. Are they making bombs now? Are we going for, like, cannons exist, right? So they're using gunpowder somehow, or something to launch things really fast, and they're really heavy or something. But, like, there is some sort of propulsion being used for these weapons. So then it's like, why isn't the logical step already being made of, maybe we should make a smaller one so that people can throw, you know, stones into people really fast from their hands. I mean, and then you have the whole thing of, if magic exists, maybe guns aren't going to be as prevalent. I don't know, right? You have to start thinking about a lot of world building stuff if you want guns, I think. But I don't think that's a bad thing, of course. I think that's something that you can do to flesh out your world a lot more. But I like the idea of
what's that? Are you saying a DM has to think about their world?
Dude, I know it's a foreign concept, but no, because like I had with Boo, you were the artificer in the Age of Magic Fur thing.
Yes, I was.
And you had a gun.
I had a gun. Yes.
Yes.
Actually, I had multiple guns because
Yes.
I didn't. See, here's my thing with guns.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm totally fine with guns in fantasy as long as they're not too advanced. Like, you can have, you can have like a bolt action rifle. Hell, I don't even mind if you have a clip, but you're not going to be getting like an AR-15.
Sure.
You're not getting like a fucking minigun. You might, if you put a lot of time and effort and like a lot of actual campaign time, you might get like the first kinds of Gatling guns.
Yeah, I was gonna say the cranking ones, right?
Yeah, like the first ones.
Yep.
So you might get that if you expend a lot of time, money, and effort.
Sure.
And so, like pistols, flintlock pistols, stuff like that, I think that's totally fine. But my problem with the with guns in D&D is that since they're not really in the rulebook, there's not a whole lot of actual like tried and true methods to actually get them to function in a satisfying way. At least in my opinion, because when we played the Age of Magic Fur, it was basically fire your gun and then use a bonus action to reload. And my whole thing was, I was okay with that if I had known that from the beginning, but my whole thing was that I wanted to be this guy who had like a fucking like little trench coat full of pistols. And so like whip out a pistol, fire it, drop it, whip out the next one, fire it, drop it. And basically be like Reaper from Overwatch.
Yeah, exactly.
But since that...
I was going to say, or Blackbeard.
Yes. Or Blackbeard. So I loved the idea of doing that and also having to like scramble around picking up all my guns and like reloading them all the time. I thought that'd be kind of funny. Or actually just having like a backpack and just like, okay guys, here, let me set up. Take the backpack off, reach in, gun, bang, reach in, gun, bang. You know, just have like a whole backpack just full of guns.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a fight in some chest-high grass or something, and you're like, God damn it.
Yeah, right. And so basically I'm like a baby clan scryer where I don't have the rattling guns, but I have like a baby Jezzail. And so I really, really liked the idea of doing that, but again, the rules were never really there for it, and so it just kind of didn't really work all that well.
Yeah, I mean, for Artificer specifically, they had their own rules for their guns.
Yeah.
And
Because
then
it was actually called the Thunder Cannon, if I remember right.
Yes, that's right. Because this was back when the Artificer hadn't come out yet for 5e. It was the UA playtest stuff that we were using.
The garbage ones, yes.
Yeah, and in the DMG, there are actual tables for guns.
Oh.
Yeah, so they do exist. There are rules for them if you want to use them. They're very much like they're fine. They're nothing too bad. I think the pistol was like a D10 of damage. And it had like the loading property, and then they added in like a feat that was like gunner or something. Where you could basically do crossbow expert, but for guns, which you don't have to worry about reloading anymore. So you could do multiple shots in a turn instead of just the one, and then reload.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like, if it goes too far over the top with the guns, then it's like, well, I don't think we're in the same setting anymore. But then again, you could be playing D&D in like a more, futuristic kind of setting, or
And then you're just asking, and then you just have to start asking yourself the question: why are we playing D&D in a futuristic setting instead of just
there is of course like Eberron. Eberron is a little bit higher.
That kind of
Yeah, stuff like that.
When you said
not
futuristic, I was thinking like cyberpunk futuristic.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing. You could.
Yeah, you could, but at that point, it would be a whole hell of a lot easier to just play cyberpunk because that system is built for that time period.
So again, it depends, right? Because I would say for something that's like D&D but is futuristic, I would go Shadowrun, right?
Yeah, that's totally right.
Yeah. So that's more. I'm just thinking of keeping with the same theme of like magic plus guns, right?
Yeah.
Whereas cyberpunk is purely just cybernetics and shit. But yeah.
Well, doesn't Shadowrun have magic?
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Shadowrun was the easier step than cyberpunk. There's a lot now. Okay. Tonight only, all donations must be in fresh olives. Oh god. Amazon wishlist some cans of olives. Yeah. Ronald said something, but it's gone. I will go with it if done well, as in the PC game Arcanum, but I do think it creates some plot holes if you're not careful, continued. Guns are either like real early guns with all their problems, making them mostly worse than a bow, or they are advanced enough to almost totally replicate bows, continued. But if you want to play it balanced, it's cool, just requires suspension of disbelief. So yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. The guns in actual real life, they were used more as like, hey, you now know how to fight, go, right? It wasn't about accuracy, it wasn't about power. Well, it was a different kind of power, not like this will decimate people. This is just like, you are a force to be reckoned with now. Go, young child, take your gun, shoot the bad.
Child soldiers, let's go.
Yup. Dragon Kraken says, historically guns were around during the 15th century, which is late medieval era, which most TTRPGs are set. Yeah, fair. I've taken to the approach that guns are like playing orcs in 40k. Dangerous, but with high potential. Hell yeah. Early guns would probably be seen more in massed infantry, so they would need less training and less aim rather than a hero. I do kind of like the single-shot pistol as a sidearm type thing you often see with pirates. That's a slick screw you, you die now maneuver that can only be used rarely. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm done.
Unless you're playing in the tabletop RPG, because then when you whip out that pistol for the screw you, you're dead. You roll a 1, and even if you didn't manage to hit them, you'd still roll a 1 for damage, and you're still fucked.
Hey.
Because fuck you.
Agreed, Steely. One of the best things in AC Black Flag, was carrying like 4 single-shot pistols. Blow your load, but have a backup or get screwed. Yep.
Nice.
I assume you guys know about Pathfinder First Edition's adventure Rasputin Must Die. No.
No. Sounds
Nope,
hilarious,
never
though.
heard of it.
Has a great synopsis set in World War I. That was when Pathfinder 1 started to explore tech and eventually published Starfinder. Oh.
Man.
Okay.
Fucking Pathfinder was made around World War One. Talk about fucking futuristic. They thought ahead.
Right. Pathfinder 1 had good rules for gunslingers that didn't overpower the game, but they did feel like a very slightly better bows with risk. Okay. To kind of reference 2 or 3 streams ago, if you are in a low magic setting where magic users are rare, then guns would make sense. Yeah. Oh, I would say so. Yeah. I would say that Starfinder is a smaller step from D&D to future tech than Shadowrun. Starfinder is mostly Pathfinder 1 rules. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But yeah. So that's our initial thoughts with guns. So let us move on, eh? Let us finally watch the first video. This is Guns in D&D 5e, brought to us by Oboe Shoes D&D. So, it's only 7 minutes or so, but it's hopefully...
should take us just about an hour.
Yeah, it should take us about an hour.
Yeah.
We shall see. So, here we go.
Hello everyone, welcome to Oboe Shoes D&D. Today, we're talking about guns.
Nice.
So, guns in D&D. There's a lot to think about here. This originally came up because one of my players who likes guns in real life wanted to use guns in game because why not? So, I had to think of a way to do it, and the way I see it, there's a couple of ways you can go about this, but I think it's important to understand the history of why firearms were used in combat before you try to apply them to a D&D game. So the reason guns became like the primary weapon in warfare originally wasn't because of their accuracy. I mean, like old flintlock muskets and stuff, not the best for accuracy. The reason that they became so popular was because how easy they were to use. It's much easier to train a bunch of dudes off the street to shoot a gun, load and shoot a gun, than it is to teach them how to fight with swords or spears or whatever. So that's why they became popular, not because they were like super effective. Although they are effective. I mean, they're guns. So when you apply that to D&D, you have to consider how guns are going to be represented in your campaign setting or, campaign in general. Are they going to be rare? Are they going to be common? If you're doing more of like a modern-ish, like 1700s era campaign, steampunk campaign, I think a guy on the cover of Pathfinder books, they have guns all the time, so I guess they have rules for that. D&D don't know anything about Pathfinder, sorry. So yeah, you have to figure out, are these going to be common items? Is everybody going to know about them? Maybe the player invented the world's first gun and he just has it, and so everyone's like, oh wow, it's pretty cool. How did you make it? He can either say,
do the Percy special
powder, gunpowder,
No,
or
yeah, that's
it
right.
could just be magic. You can just say guns are magic, whatever. I don't feel like dealing with it. If you're lazy, which I am, but I just said, all right, it's a steampunk. It was a steampunk game anyway, mainly because I wanted to have airships because airships are awesome. So I said, okay, yeah, there'll be gunpowder. Anybody that wants one can probably get one. So the easiest thing to do with guns is to reskin cross.
Actually, I do have a question. This has made me think.
Yeah.
Would you have? Okay. Would you have if you had guns in your world already, as like a prominent thing? Would you have them be something that people who found this technology? Would you go stereotyping of like dwarves? Would you go, this is an innovation by humans? Would you make it the dominant race maybe found it out, or the most powerful race, or like what do you think?
I would do gnomes. Because gnomes are inventive, and I love the thought of like a little gnome taking a fully sized shotgun and firing it and then falling over backwards.
Now, I think if you wanted me to come up with a way for guns to be included in a fantasy world, and you gave me free reign to do it, and I was able to do it like in my typical kind of goofy, happy-go-lucky style of DMing, because I tend to run games that are less dark because I'm so sick of how oversaturated darkness is in media today. So I try to make stuff that's, more upbeat, more positive.
Sure.
Because,
Hey, I like dark campaigns.
oh, I know, but like I just know that when The Dark Knight came out, basically after that movie came out, everything had to be dark. Everything. Because I was like, oh, it's the hot new thing.
There has been a more upswing in that, though. I think we're getting through that more so.
Yeah,
and
we're finally done with it.
It was more of the thing of like dark equaled mature, right?
Yeah.
In which case it was like, that's not always the case. I don't. Yeah. You can have it also be mature but also happy. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was dark equals mature and dark equals more money and successful. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because of the previous stuff.
Yeah. So, I think if you gave me the ability to make guns a permanent thing in my world with that sort of criteria, if I didn't have them be invented, I think what I would do is have them be the result of some fucking ridiculous circumstance where, they were obviously mass-produced through, like, normal shit, but the way that they were originally found and, like, discovered was some kobold shaman was praying to, like, some weird god. It's like, give me a weapon that can defeat my enemies, that kind of bullshit.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, that night, a fucking meteor crashes to the earth, and the kobolds go check it out, and there's a gun inside of it.
Sure.
And then after that, they go, it's like, yeah, we have the weapon. They go fucking attack whoever they were going to attack. And then they get fucking killed because they're kobolds and their shit. And then someone finds the gun, and they'd be like, oh, this thing's weird. Let's try to figure out what it is. And that's how it happened.
Sure, yeah. I think you should do that, but instead of kobolds, make it Koatoa.
Oh, okay, yeah, Koatoa.
So they dream it into existence, right?
Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
So just something ridiculous that became more of this normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's how I just like
that. Yeah. That's fair. In Arcanum, they actually had a plot point where magic and tech interfered with each other, so that could be one potential idea for how guns work in fantasy. Like if guns tend to jam around the mage. Ooh. I like the idea of guns being an equalizer invented by a race that is physically less powerful and or less magical than others. Yes, that is also a good one. I like that too. Like we're tired of being pushed around. This is my boomstick. Yes. The two hardest parts of making a gun is the explosive and the strength of the metal. The race to create guns would be strong alchemists and metallurgists. Whatever has good int and con. Yeah, could be that too. That's the thing. I think any race has the potential, right? If you put them in that position where they need it, somebody will figure it out.
And I actually like that idea of guns jamming around magic because like when I'm thinking of guns in a D&D world, what I would prefer to have them be is instead of like the classic like bolt action rifle, like lever action rifle, you know how they actually look. Instead of that, I would prefer it was like a rifle body that had like a collection of gears at that kind of join point between the barrel and the stock. And when you pull the trigger, the gears turn and then they like punch a hole in something, and that's how the bullet is projected, and like it ignites the gunpowder and then it functions as normal. And so I think that would be kind of cool where you could be like, well, magicians, they like alter the weave and shit, and they fuck with the laws of reality. And so these gears, which are all about, being very precise and and you know how gears are like the symbols of like Mechanus or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like when they're near fluctuations in the weave, they start acting weird or something.
Yeah, sure.
I think that'd be kind of neat.
That would be kind of neat. There's also like the easiest, like, since guns could be just magic, it would be like they slot like thunderstones, so you buy thunderstones in order to actually like shoot them off and stuff. And then you can have it be like something that can actually be countered by a mage of like, oh, that guy's gonna fucking shoot his gun. I'm gonna counter the fucking thunderstone, dispel its magic maybe or something, you know? One of my players had a gnome gunslinger with a large musket that sent him back with recoil. He got a ring of featherfall that would jump off a ledge, then fire his rifle to fly.
Nice.
Very good.
Oh yeah.
I love the whole gear gun idea. I want to see that as a miniature. Dude, that'd be sick. Yeah.
Yeah, because the reason why I thought of that is specifically because of the clockwork rifle in Terraria. It's literally just that.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, so you could probably find like actual art of that gun that people have drawn. So
yeah,
clockwork rifle Terraria.
This is also my brain is now remembering things that you said before. You kind of made a passive a mention of the Rattling Gunners, and so I'm thinking like, you know how Warhammer Fantasy has Skaven.
Yeah.
And they have full fucking artillery and like tanks and shit at time, like with the Empire, and then like the Rattling Gunners or the warp fire throwers and all of that stuff.
And
they
the
have
warlock Jezzails and stuff.
Yes, they have all of these guns, and I feel like Skaven, because I don't know this, and maybe you'll know this more, Boo. But are the guns in that using magic? Like they're using what's it called? A warpstone?
Warpstone. Yeah, they're using warpstone.
That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah.
For
so
them.
basically, like the warp fire throwers use liquefied warpstone to act as the napalm, and then the warlock Jezzails, I believe they use just regular metal shells, but they use some form of warpstone ignition. And then the Rattling guns are powered by warpstone.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense.
Because with every Rattling gunner, you have a team of 2. So.
Right. And so Warhammer Fantasy has that that blend of like both magic guns and regular guns because of the Empire and like the vampirates, if you will, and like all of that, which I find very interesting because then you have the ability to have that on all sides, right? It actually kind of balances it out nice. And that's another way that I think if you want to like make your world have that kind of stuff, you make it so that everything has something that is equivalent, right? Because even the Lizardmen, they have the
Hammer of Dawn.
well, yeah, that and like the what the fuck is it called? The thing on the back of the Triceratops. Oh my god, it's been too long.
That's the Hammer of Dawn.
Oh, is that called the Hammer of Dawn? I thought it was called something
It's not
else.
called the Hammer of Dawn, but it's an engine of the gods. Or
yeah, there you go. Engine of the gods. Thank you. Yeah.
I was gonna say, isn't the Hammer of Dawn what they use in Gears of War?
Yeah, it is. It's just that was like the first like popularization of it in video games. Usually.
I don't even know that. I don't know much about Gears of War.
Laser cannon. That's
gotcha. Yeah.
And it's sick as hell.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I should play those someday.
If I remember right, they're basically like the JoJo of video games.
Yeah.
Because it's just ridiculous bro shit happening all the time.
Hell yeah. Naren says, Skaven guns use warpstone and drive their users insane or poison them. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because warpstone is very bad.
Yes, it's really bad. I love it.
But I mean, it's okay. If you're a Skaven, you only live like a few hours, it's fine.
That's true. You're either going to be sent to the front lines, or you're going to be sent into an experiment that will kill you, or...
yeah.
Like, you're a Skaven slave and you're just dead anyway. Like, you're...
Yeah, they're just dead.
Whatever.
Life is cheap if you're a Skaven.
Yes. Magic rifles... Yes. Magic rifles would work really well as railguns that require the shooter to have 4 spells that they sacrifice to fire. More powerful the spell, higher the damage. Yeah.
Just make sure that you don't make guns by accident like I did.
Yeah.
Because I had cannons, but no guns.
Yeah.
And then I introduced pirates who had set up they'd gotten shipwrecked and they set up camp on top of this hill that overlooked a road and set up a toll.
Okay.
When the players invariably decided to not pay the toll, I attacked them with the cannon. It was great. But there were barrels of gunpowder, and we had a person who basically like moved his he stacked a bunch of effects like haste, a special lightning cloak, stuff
that's right.
like
Yep.
that. Like he stacked a bunch of stuff, so we had a 300-foot move speed, and made it up there in like a few rounds. But unfortunately, the lightning cloak has a tendency of sort of spraying out lightning all over the place like a Tesla coil. Um and one of the it affects everything within a certain radius of him, but one of the things within that radius was the barrels of gunpowder. Which can be ignited by electricity.
Yes.
So he detonated all 3 cannons.
And he died.
No, he
I know.
lived barely.
Yeah.
He took no damage running up to the cannon and from like the pirates who were guarding it.
Yeah.
But he took a lot of damage from the explosion, which turned everyone around him into a paste. And like he's there clutching broken ribs like ow.
I did it. Yeah. More insane. I'm not sure you can call Skaven especially sane. That's true.
Yeah.
Are you thinking
Thanks,
of Engine of the
relative.
God? That's true. Are you thinking of Engine of the Gods, or is that only Seraphim? Yes, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
it's Engine of the Gods.
Yeah. All right. Anyway.
Guns have a little bit longer of a range, but it doesn't matter too much. You gotta remember, depending, if you're gonna go like Wild West, then yeah, the guns are pretty accurate. But if you're doing like old school, like muzzle loading, they're not that accurate. There's a reason that old style warfare was 2 guys, armies of guys lined up, and they just kind of take pot shots at each other for a while before someone says charge, and everyone charges in, or they just run away. Because they weren't accurate enough to go, like street-to-street warfare. That didn't really happen. Everyone just got into a field, shot at each other for a little bit, charged, or ran away, or horses came in and killed them, or cannonballs killed them, or disease killed them. Lots of ways to die.
Yeah, the disease right on the battlefield
was different because the guns got a lot more accurate, and so standing in fields and going got a lot more deadly. So you started to see trench warfare actually developing near the end of the American Civil War. So I'd say you still probably want to, like, repeating rifles and revolvers is probably the max you want to go with it if you're going to try to maintain some semblance of a fantasy setting. Like a modern assault rifle, like a semi-automatic boom, boom, boom. I don't really think that would work. You can try it, but if an action in D&D, if a round is like 6 seconds, and you got a guy with a gun like that, he should be able to shoot like 5 shots. So I mean, I wouldn't go with that. If I
it would take you 5.
So if
take you 6 seconds to fire shots.
Yeah, well, it's the yeah. I was gonna say.
Realms, it'd be easier to make them rare items. Eberron. I mean, I haven't played Eberron, but Eberron has steampunk, so I'm sure they got guns in there if they don't just put them in.
Yeah, I think so.
Your own homebrew setting, guns can be in there as whatever. Like I said, it is fun if the players create them because then nobody else has them, but then you're going to have players using a gun and no one else has it. It's not very fun for you because you're like, he has a gun, I want a gun. Everyone wants a gun. So as far...
Well, I mean, so...
I think what he means, instead of saying, he's got a gun, I want a gun, instead of that, he should have said, they're going to be using guns in ways that other pieces of technology available to everybody else are impossible. That's what he should have said.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. If we're going... So, I don't know if he's got the DMG in front of him, and I don't, unfortunately, because I didn't bring it up because I don't use it. But I can easily find
Nobody does.
the actual table for guns 5e. So here we go. I think. Yes. Okay. So with firearms we have like Renaissance, and then it even does have modern as a example. But with Renaissance we have pistols and muskets, and that's about it. And the pistols do a D10 piercing. they are range 30-90, which isn't great, to be fair, right? Anything outside of 30 feet is disadvantage, and then anything farther than 90 feet is you can't even fucking hit it, right?
Yeah. When you fire bullets from my dreams,
yeah.
Get a foot out of the gun and then fall to the floor.
Right. And then the musket is a D12 piercing, and then range is 40, 120. Right? These things aren't that bad. At least raw, right? Depending on how you make them in your thing, I think modeling them around this is perfectly fine. If you want to make the pistol go down from D10 to like D8s or D6s, that's totally fair. But I think that you then make it so it's like, why would I ever use it, right? Because with the D10, it is on par with, I think, a heavy crossbow and some two-handed weapons that are melee oriented, but then it's also on par with Eldritch Blast, but it requires the load because it has loading, the loading trait to the weapon. So you then, need to reload with an action or a bonus action, I think it is, for this. They've actually changed it for this, or the guns in this would be able to do that instead of in D&D, like with crossbows and arrows, or no, bows don't need it. But crossbows, they have loading, and it's just you take an action, I believe. They don't allow you to do a bonus action. So, I mean, I don't think if you just use it like this, it doesn't seem like it's that bad. So I don't know why people would have too much of an issue. There's also bombs and gunpowder kegs and gunpowder horns, which are things.
Horns?
Yes, like a powder horn.
Oh,
yeah. But they don't say how much damage they do. Oh no, there they are. A bomb would be a DC 12 dexterity saving throw, with everything within 5 feet, or take 3d6 fire damage. And you can, and then it can be 60 feet away, up to 60 feet away, apparently. It doesn't have a range increment, which is a little short-sighted, I think. I don't know if this is weird. This might be, this might not be final, but I might have found something from before the book came out. I don't know. It's got like weird post-it notes on it on the site, so fucking whatever. Weird. Yeah, I don't know. And then the gunpowder, it says setting fire to a container causes it to explode, dealing fire damage to creatures within 5 feet of it. 3d6 for a powder horn, and then 7d6 for a keg. Also DC 12 dex save to have the damage. So yeah, I mean, again, just from the DMG, not saying anything from people that create their own. Just from the DMG and like working off of that, I think that's fine. I think you can work with that just easily. The cannon story makes me think of a hellhound exploding in the middle of enemy infantry. Always a classic. Oh fuck yeah, that sounds awesome,
dude.
And then, but do you allow them to have a duckfoot gun? Look it up, it's silly. Or a Saturday Night Special. Saturday Night Special sounds familiar. I don't know duckfoot gun, but I'll look it up at some point. Anyway.
As far as mechanics for guns, if you want to make them different than just your standard bow and arrow or crossbow weapon, what I think would be good to do is take the crossbow damage and double it for guns, but then also say the guns need an action to reload. And actually, that's what's recommended, I think. I'm not sure the damage is the same, but that's what's recommended in the Dungeon Master Guide for guns.
Okay, so he does.
They do have one table for on page 268 of your DMG.
Hey, thanks for the page number.
You do have the loading action, which means you have to take an action to load the gun. So you need to shoot it, then in your next round you can't shoot it because you got to load it again with the whole action. Now, they don't give it as much damage in here. I'd say double the damage of the gun. So I think giving the guns double damage and making them reload makes them more interesting to use. It sets them apart from crossbows and longbows, and it gives you better...
So it certainly sets them apart, but 2d10 worth of damage is a little much, I think.
It also lends itself to people ducking in and out of cover and firing only on their turn.
Yeah.
Like, I fire, I take cover, the round I'm reloading. The next round, I peek out, I fire, I take cover. Like,
using a gun the way it's intended.
Yeah, granted, there's nothing wrong with, like, using the system like that. There's no, like, rules or anything. There's no issue with that. I'm just saying it's going to make balancing encounters even more difficult if you do 2d10. Which, like, is still more than 2 sword strikes, and that's not reflective of how much damage a bullet does. Like, think of a bullet entering the torso as like an aggravated stab wound with a dagger. It's pretty bad, but like most people will not die from getting gut shot within like a second. A wound, specifically a gut shot, takes a long while to die from.
Right.
I would not say 2d10 is reflective of that, because like
it's a huge amount. It can be a potential of 20.
With 2d10, you can turn an NPC into paste.
Yeah.
And that's not what a gun does.
Not unless it's a real fucking big one.
Like,
also,
you better be handling your gun like Tristana from League of Legends.
Yeah, the whole fucking thing is huge.
Yeah, the cannon.
Yeah. I also looked up duckfoot gun. I forgot that this was what that was. It is silly. Yes. It is just like the webbed kind of barrels. They're like 4 barrels. And they extend out. Here. I can show you guys. Oh, that didn't do it. What the fuck? I copied it and it didn't do it. Copy. Paste. Hey! Those kinds of things.
That's neat, though. Shit.
Yeah. They look interesting, but I'm sure they were fucking bad.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Let me just pull this back up and let's go. Oh, wait. Maybe 2d6 instead of 1d10? So on the table itself, it does have like the modern pistol will do 2d6 instead of 1d10. Because it's been refined to do more damage. Because if you think about it, I'm pretty sure 2d6 is just statistically better than 1d10.
Better? Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a minimum of 2 damage and can go up to 12, whereas it has a minimum of 1 and can go up to 10 on a d10.
Exactly. So I don't think like making it 2 anything would be good. Unless it's like, I guess 2d4, right? Which it then like it's not as bad, but it is still the good minimum threshold. Anyway, let's see.
Like early damage, and in my experience, 5th edition combats don't last that long, so the more damage you can deal faster, the better. So instead of doing 26, 26, 26, you're doing 2d6 right off the gate, but then you gotta spend an action to reload, and then another 2d6. So as long as the combat lasts an odd number of rounds, you basically have no disadvantage, except your action.
Isn't it, like, statistically, most combats last 2 to 3 rounds? Or is it 3 to 4? I don't remember.
I think it's usually 2 to 3.
I would say 3 to 4.
Okay.
Oh.
But we could say a happy medium of 3.
Okay, well, there you go. Never mind then.
is going to be reloading instead of attacking during one turn. So, I mean, it's a trade-off. I think it makes it more interesting to do it that way. Now, one other way you could do it is to make the guns magical and they shoot spells or, cantrips. So each round, you could have a gun just, reflavor Eldritch Blast because, Warlocks are going to be using Eldritch Blast every turn anyway. Reflavor Eldritch Blast and say it's a gun or a shotgun or whatever. And so each turn...
Well, in that case, then I would say, why even make it a gun? It could be just a wand or something, right?
Because a wand is just a stick.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. What? Sorry?
Oh, maybe I want to use a gun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's true. Flavoring anything is fine. It's just one of those things where I'm just like, if we're going to flavor it one thing, then what's the point of worrying about it mechanically, I suppose? Because then it could just be like, I have, access to my spell book of cantrips, but instead of that, I just have different shots in my gun, right?
Because you want to be like a fucking light bowgun in Monster Hunter.
Sure, yeah, you can. Absolutely. I'm fine with it. I'm just saying, like, for this example,
Yeah.
They actually have a duckfoot-like gun for the Caradron Overlords in Age of Sigmar. It's called a Deck Sweeper. Oh,
nice.
Oh,
okay.
Sick.
That sounds like
sweeper.
That sounds like something the Vampirates had in Total War.
Yeah.
Eldritch Blast is a gun. That'd be a cool way to do it, I think, because then the guns are way more unique, and instead of giving out a wand of an OP spell, you can say, here's a gun of an OP spell. And I just realized that's probably way worse. So they got grenades in here, they got explosive barrels.
Cool.
D&D is not a video game. Don't put explosive barrels in, except
I want to put explosive barrels in now.
Well, that's what he's saying.
Don't tell me what to do.
That's what he's saying.
You see an explosive barrel,
just do it
if
you want to.
Like, my immersion. Well, maybe you will. But if I'm a player and I see an explosive barrel, I'm like, sweet. Get everyone over there. We're gonna blow that thing up.
Okay, cool.
Awesome,
Cool.
That's what I'm trying to say with this part.
I don't know what I'm prone to do when I see an explosive barrel is add it to my inventory.
Yeah, I know. We play Divinity. I know. Fuck you and your oil barrel bullshit.
Dude, it was so useful.
Really
Dude, take it out of my inventory as a free action, teleport it over an enemy, break it, and then just like spark it somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna light it up.
Then turn it into a blood cloud electricity thing. And
the electrified blood cloud.
Yeah.
A holy electrified blood cloud.
Yeah, that's right.
Jesus Christ.
Blessed.
That's right. Blessed. Yeah.
Blessed electrified blood cloud.
So my thoughts in D&D. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you got some ideas, maybe to steal for your
Oh my god, it didn't take an hour?
If you have any ideas of your own about how guns work that please put them in the comments because I would love to read them.
Okay, well, yeah, that's that.
So,
that was much quicker.
Actually, I got a question for you
guys.
guys.
Go for it.
So since we're talking about guns and projectile weapons,
yes,
and since slings are a thing,
yeah,
what would you guys do for a slingshot? Because slingshots, I don't believe actually exist in D&D in rules as written.
Yeah, not technically. You mean just mechanically?
I don't think you can even buy them in the book.
No. That's what I'm saying. You're asking what you would have us do mechanically with.
Oh yeah.
Okay. How much does a sling cost?
I think a sling is like 1d4, even though it should honestly be more like a 1d6.
I would agree. Yeah.
I don't know. You mean like a wrist-mounted slingshot?
Yeah.
I don't know if that would even do damage because you can't really kill a person with it. Or you can, but you have to try real fucking hard.
Yeah, that is true because you can kill someone with a sling. You can't kill somebody with a slingshot.
Yeah. The slingshot has like unless it's a big projectile and a lot of force behind it.
Even
ballista.
Yeah, even if it does 1 point of damage, that's still a lot for a slingshot.
Yeah.
And I guess what you would have to do with a slingshot is use it as like a something delivery system where you have like maybe a glass bead filled with something, and then you fire it explodes or it shatters or something.
Yeah, it could. The I guess with a slingshot, you would get the accuracy, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with the sling, you get the power.
It would basically be like Legend of Zelda, where you just use a slingshot to hit switches.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, absolutely. So that will do that video. Let's go on to the next one. It's just flying through, boys. Just flying through. So this next video is called. Let me just like cue it up here. Implementing Implementing Firearms. 4 things to consider. Firearms in Fantasy #1, brought to us by Sebastian's Cauldron. He's got a lot of Stephen King, I've just noticed. Holy shit. Guy likes Stephen King a lot. Nice.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. I just noticed all of that. I mean, good for you, dude. I still have, being from Maine, still have never read a Stephen King book ever.
I got into The Tower.
Yeah.
And I made it, I think, about 3 pages before I decided, fuck this.
Fair enough. You know, I've never seen someone use a sling in D&D, not even to throw alchemist fire or oil. Well, I use a sling in D&D, in Devils and Dice.
You should watch that campaign. It's pretty okay.
Which just reminded
Look who just mistakenly admitted to not paying attention to Devils and Dice.
Yeah, wow, damn.
Which I've just remembered. I still need to put the video together and put it up for tomorrow. Ha-ha! I'm gonna be awake tonight. Great.
Yep.
Anyway, so let us see what this man says about things to consider in firearms and fantasy.
It's been a couple of weeks since my last video. Apologies for that. I have been busy doing a lot of things. It's been Christmas time, New Year's, etc. I've spent, though, in those last 2 weeks, a great deal of time reading 2 books. The first being the second book in the Powder Mage trilogy, fantastic, and also the Pathfinder Call rulebook. I'm planning on swapping over to Pathfinder. I've mentioned this a couple of times in a previous video, but during that time I started thinking about a topic that I wanted to start discussing. It's something that I've been thinking about the past year and a half or so since I started my latest D&D campaign. Hey everybody, Sebastian here from Sebastian's Cauldron. We are talking, of course, about including firearms in your tabletop role-playing game campaign. So as I said, we're going to talk about firearms, guns and explosions, black powder, musket rifles and flintlock pistols, sticks of dynamite, grenades, revolvers, and all sorts of other things. And because this is a D&D channel, we will talk about it in the context of fantasy and in tabletop role-playing games. Now, guns and fantasy have always existed in this strange vacuum. There's always been a strange relationship between the two, whether it's a dumb joke or a dumb meme about how Lord of the Rings could have been solved if Legolas only had a sniper rifle, or if it is the standard inclusion of black powder weapons, typically flintlocks in what we call flintlock fantasy. Guns and explosives have always been in a sort of weird spot when it comes to the inclusion in typical fantasy. That doesn't mean that it can't be used. For example, in Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, I think in the movie, they have a orc suicide bomber who uses some sort of explosive, which I think they handwave as some magical creation by Saruman to breach open Helm's Deep.
What?
No.
No?
It was just there to use.
It was powder kegs.
Yeah, it was gunpowder being used to.
And he just fucking had a torch or like some sort of like.
Yeah.
Maybe invented through magical, mystical means, and because Saruman is a wizard and spends all his time in a tower, but it was still gunpowder.
Yeah.
What exactly. The fuck? Who says it?
I don't know, man. That first was great, by the way. Oh yeah, that first video was pretty alright. Sorry, I never said anything about it. It was fine. Yeah. Internet dying. Catch the rest later. Okay, see you, Dragon Kraken. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry, it's dying.
Yeah. VOD gang.
We see flintlock weapons used in
gang.
Pirates of the Caribbean and and almost every other pirate-themed thing that I can think of. We see gunpowder and magic mixed with sorcerers known as powder mages in the Powder Mage trilogy and Gods of Blood and Powder by Brian McClellan. I'm sure there are a bunch more examples of firearms in fantasy. Those are just the few that I can think of right now off the top of my head. And despite the presence of firearms in some fantasy mediums, I have found that the inclusion of them in D&D and other tabletop role-playing games has been a very controversial topic. So much so that a significant and prominent argument for or against Pathfinder, which is effectively a house-ruled 3.5 edition of D&D, is that it has and uses guns quite frequently in its games. Those of you that watch Critical Role would know that this is where Percy originally comes from. Mercer's game was initially Pathfinder before they transitioned over to 5th edition. I don't know why they transitioned over, but maybe it sold better. I'm not too sure, but that is where we got the gunslinger first and foremost. We've seen many RPG systems try to include guns, and all of them have their different quirks, drawbacks, and advantages to them. There is not, to my knowledge, a perfect system for using firearms that also blends together that typical fantasy tropes and everything that we know and love. So this is going to be a multi-part series talking about firearms in the context of fantasy, in tabletop role-playing games, in your D&D campaign. This is part 1.
I didn't realize this was going to be more than one part on the same thing. Okay, well, we'll see where we get with this one and see if we want to watch the next one.
Yeah. I sure hope it's not like one thing to consider per video.
We shall see.
4 parts. Ooh.
In this part, talk about 4 key things that you need to think about and consider before you even start to think about implementing firearms into your campaign. Because we're talking about, I guess, more setting and world building sort of stuff, this could also apply if you're writing a fantasy story or if you're coming up with a script or anything vaguely along the lines of writing. This video is not going to be talking about game mechanics, homebrew, what system you should be using. That is going to be in a future video. So like I said, there are 4 key things to think about. The first one to think about is what kind of technology are you going to be using? You have a vast array of terms that you're going to have to suddenly become familiar with to distinguish all of the different...
So, when I heard what level technology are you using, the natural contrarian in me just immediately went low, like The Witcher. And now I've got the quest in The Witcher 3 where you have to search for that pan for that old lady that is coated with soot.
Yeah, okay.
And it's just her with like a fucking Remington.
That's right.
Oh,
that's right.
Just like cocks and like walks in a 12 gauge, aims at Geralt.
Yeah, that's right. Low. Wait a minute.
Systems and everything that have been used in order to fire a projectile at someone at an incredibly fast rate. Are you going matchlock, wheel lock, flintlock, muzzle loaded, breech loaded? All of these sort of terms, you're going to probably have to do a bit of Googling. I have spent a lot of time on Wikipedia looking at flintlock weapons in particular, because that is sort of what I am looking to include and what I have been including in my D&D game. But you have to ask yourself, do you want to include those really old school, early sort of flintlock weapons that are very cumbersome and take a long time to load and are often unreliable? Do you want to go a little more modern and go Wild West sort of themed and have revolvers, lever action rifles? Do you want to go very modern and have typical assault rifles, semi-automatic pistols, grenades, and all of that? The technology and the overall type of gun and firearms that you are going to be using is really important to establish, and you want to make sure that not only you are aware of that, but your players are aware of that too. If you are telling them you're including firearms, you need to make sure that your players know you're only including flintlock pistols and musket rifles, because the last thing you want is your players to be disappointed thinking that they were going to create an elven ranger who has a massive sniper rifle and 2 double-barrel shotguns. These sort of expectations you can talk about in a session 0. Did a video on that. You can put it up there. While you're doing that, if you want to click the like button and subscribe, that'd be super cool. Thank you. I personally have found the most success using typical flintlock weapons, as I have mentioned. Going any earlier than that, and it sort of gets to a point where you don't really have a good reason for using firearms. Going any later than that, and it starts to take over and become the main thing that you want to do. I've been running a series of one-shots lately because we have not been able to get our full group together. I've noticed a few quirks when firearms are included, that being they become very quickly the preferred option for the players to use, and it means that any sort of melee combat is almost completely negated, because why would you try and get close to someone if you can stay far and do higher
Being
damage
able
than
to
your
stab
typical
someone
melee?
at range.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's the same way that it is for, like, bows, right? I understand if you make the pistols or whatever gun higher damage, then it'll make it so that it's like, that's always the option, right? But this is why, usually, when I make a character, I give them some sort of ranged and some sort of melee option.
Yeah.
So that, you know, they have the ability to do both. But then it's like, why would I want to get close? You know, like, that's just the natural mentality of, I don't want to get near the thing that wants to kill me, right?
Yeah.
This is how it be. But yeah, if you make them too high damage, I feel like that's really the issue that you get to, of like, they'll always go for the gun. Always. It's just like, hey, you have a heavy crossbow, you'll always use that before you go anywhere into melee.
Never underestimate the power of gun.
Yes, exactly.
Melee strikes. So for me, it is flintlock weapons, flintlock pistols, musket rifles, blunderbusses, arquebuses, all of those wonderfully weird and archaic old school firearms. We see this, like I said, in Pirates of the Caribbean, and we even see laser muskets in Treasure Planet. That is so cool. They don't need to be reloaded, fortunately, but still, it's still a musket, I guess. Those would work if you're playing Spelljammer. In my opinion, the more modern your firearms start getting, the further away you go from fantasy and the closer you get to science fiction. If you're including modern assault rifles and Gatling guns and everything, you might be able to still have those fantastical elements, but if you start including futuristic weapons, you're absolutely getting into science fiction territory. Not that that's a bad thing. I don't know if D&D works so well in science fiction. You might look at different game systems, but of course we're simply talking about what kind of guns you're wanting to include. The second thing that you want to think about.
So I know we're basically just going through and saying yep, because unfortunately,
this is all good.
Yeah, we've said all this stuff already before too. It's like, oh, what is the level of your technology is quite literally what we were talking about before, of like, hey, if
how
you
do
got
they work?
Yeah, if you got gunpowder, well then you have a whole bunch of shit that you got to think about, right, with your world. It's just like, yeah, all right, cool.
Fucking world building, man, it's such a pain.
What a pain. But yeah, I don't want it to just be us listening to a video, but man, it's just I'm trying to inject when I can, you know?
Yeah.
How are your guns going to be? Is everybody going to have them? Are they a rare, closely guarded secret that only a few people know? Would you see typical adventurers walking around with guns? Would you see guards walking around with them?
Oh, it's like fucking Dishonored now.
Is going to be extremely important to establish. If they are very, very rare and you have a player character or even just a character in a story that wants to be the first person to invent the gun, that is a significant story beat. You should grab onto that and you should use that because that would be fantastic.
Sure.
In the inverse, if they are extremely commonplace and popular, you could imagine that pretty much everyone would be carrying one of some variety. That then also means that guns would be easy to acquire, ammunition would also be easy to acquire. If they're rare, you would probably have to craft everything. If your character isn't intelligent or doesn't have access to tools and metals, they're probably not going to be able to make themselves any weapons or ammo. How common the guns are is then going to lead to strange social quirks that you might not think about. For example, if they are extremely rare, is someone going to be threatened if you point a gun at them?
No.
They might not.
That's a good point.
It's going to be coupled with
I think if you were to do that, like, this is the thing of like, you take technology back to like ancient times, right, and you show it to somebody, they might not fucking understand it, so they don't actually get like afraid of it. in the sense of if you
magic.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It is magic, but it's also like, hey, what can it do? It doesn't do anything. I'm not scared of it until you actually like show somebody what it does, right?
Yeah.
I
I just got a error where all these videos just crashed.
Oh,
that's weird.
fun.
Is that a?
That's only on your end, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see.
But yeah, so like I think with something like this, it then also becomes if it is something that is very much rare or the player has created the first one, right?
Yeah.
It then becomes something that is spread as a rumor, right?
Yeah.
And it can transform from that into something like this man has the power of a dragon at his fingertips, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet he requires no magic or something, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you can have it become something of a legend in which when people actually do find out that that's the thing, then it can be like either something that's feared, revered, or I can't think of a good third one.
Yeah. Feared, revered, or
just something that they don't care about, I guess. Yeah, or intriguing. Yeah, that works too.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it will give you that much to work with your world and with your campaign in general. And then it becomes like, hey, that character is more famous or infamous, maybe even. Like it makes future interactions in towns and stuff.
If
maybe
they reveal
better.
their identity, of course.
Right, exactly. Do they need to now hide who they are, right?
Yeah.
Like, it becomes a whole nother thing of options for that, which is cool.
Yeah.
We need a properly dumb video. That's true, we do. Or everyone's after it trying to take it. Yeah, that could also be the case, right? It becomes a precious commodity that everybody wants, and so they try to kill you for it, or try to buy it off you, or, you know, all that kind of stuff, and then you can see if somebody wants to part with it or not, and then makes their own again. And they're just like, I'll just keep making this.
You remember when I sold my gun for a pair of goggles?
Yes. Yes, I do.
And the guy was like, what the fuck is this thing? It's like, oh, it fires stuff. It does
like,
stuff.
And he's like, okay, I'll look at it. Neat. That's strange.
And then I didn't sell any ammo.
That is true.
Well, it's pretty good.
He'll figure it out one day.
Yeah, maybe.
String of confusion. What is this device that is being pointed at me? Of course, if they're common, if they have the same sort of knowledge that your average person does about a gun, they probably would be threatened. This then links to our third item of consideration, which is how has the world changed or not changed because of the presence of guns? As I said earlier, if guns are common, you can say goodbye to
getting this
melee
error
fights,
again.
or at least...
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
What is it specifically?
An error occurred. Please try again later. Playback ID. Blah 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 blah.
Oh,
more.
Weird.
Yeah, so it's like the whole, and then I actually have links to other videos from him. So it's not like the player crashed. It's like the video crashed or something.
It's just watch together being weird.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's something about it. But yeah, he's definitely going over what we've already said.
Yeah, it's kind of all the shit that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
So like,
I want to see if he says anything else to add, but let's see. Do you have ad blocker?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Try disabling it.
Ads?
Well, try disabling it on the site. I have it disabled and it never plays like a mid-roll ad or anything. It's just like one of those click away ones.
Okay, let's see. How do I even... I know there's a way to whitelist stuff.
Yeah, if you
enabled
just...
on this site. There we go. There's that one. I have two. Hang on.
Yeah. Take your time.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I can't stand ads.
That's fair. I mean, for this, it's not that invasive, honestly. For watch together.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay. And then I'll reload the page.
Yeah.
them. If it is very quick to reload a gun and fire it again, why would you bother trying to get close to someone? This was a fundamental shift in warfare when the firearms started becoming more prominent. Cavalry charges wouldn't work, melee fights wouldn't really happen. If I remember correctly, this is part of the reason why France didn't do so well at the start of the First World War, because they were still doing mounted cavalry charges with swords, and the Germans all just had guns and would just shoot them all down. Fair. This is from memory. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, please put it down in the comments. I would love to learn. From there, you can ask yourself, would military have them? Would guards have them? Are they manufactured on a mass level, or are they, again, a close secret? Do people still have access and occasionally use older ranged weapons such as bows and arrows or crossbows? Are people allowed to walk around the streets with guns? You might typically think of a fantasy setting and walking down the street of a large bustling city and seeing numerous knights and golden sheaming armor and carrying great swords on their backs. That would be a typical sight. Everyone would have the sword, it's just presumed you would. In that instance, would you then also have people walking around with their guns? We might think of that as a little
in Texas,
strange.
yes.
Personally, if I walked down the street and I saw someone holding a couple of 6-shooters at their side, I'd be a bit concerned. But this is not our world, this is a fantasy world we're thinking about. You can also think about how the world has adapted in a more industrial way. If firearms are becoming more prominent, then maybe they start developing strange accessories and attachments for it. Things that allow you to see far away and to line up the shot perfectly.
Yeah, you got like scopes and shit. Yeah.
Muffle the sound of a firearm so that it remains silent.
That is actually interesting.
I thought we were gonna start getting apps for guns.
Makes it a smart gun.
I don't know why my brain went immediately to that.
My gun is actually my phone. I can call my parents on it.
I can play Candy Crush on my phone.
Yes.
While I'm shooting you.
Yeah, my internet is also dying. I guess I'll catch it later tonight, guys. Aw, sorry, Pizza Funk. Well, see you later.
Okay. VOD gang.
VOD gang. The French also started World War I in bright red and blue uniforms, which changed pretty quickly. That's true. There you go.
True.
Yeah, so I didn't even think about it of like depending on how
and scopes.
Yeah, depending how
mags and
box
mags.
Well, I mean, obviously you wouldn't go
dot sights.
Obviously you wouldn't go that far, but like, you know, having actual scopes and stuff to be, because that would be interesting to use as something that you can have be an upgrade to like make your weapon a +1, your gun a +1, right? Yeah. You then craft scopes and shit so that you can see farther away and like get a better, or maybe even increase your, well, it wouldn't increase your range increment, but it would definitely like make it easier to hit and shit. So that actually, I like that idea as being like a natural progression to upgrade your weapon. You know? Yeah,
that'd be cool. Although you can't really do that with swords. Unfortunately, you can't.
Well,
like, add
that's
a scope to swords.
The equivalent, of course, is they get enchanted or
but you can enchant a gun too.
Well, reforged to make them like +1 weapons instead of just enchanted, right? Like make them adamantium swords or whatever, and all that
like
kind of
Vorpal,
stuff.
And like you hammer the Vorpal into the sword. Yeah, what the fuck is Vorpal?
It's an enchantment, I think.
Oh, it actually is an enchantment. Okay, because I was making a joke because I know that Vorpal is a noun.
Yeah.
Or an adjective. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it is technically an enchantment. Though I've never had one, so I don't know.
Yeah.
At least you should also think about how magic is going to interact with the firearms.
I did it every time!
Like Brian McClellan did, in which people can use black powder in order to enhance their strength, their perception, their abilities to float shots from over a mile away. Are you going to keep magic and your firearms separate? Of course, if we're playing a TTRPG, you are going to be a little constrained by the rules and the mechanics. If you're writing a story, though, anything goes. You could do all sorts of crazy stuff, mixing together firearms and magic. I could imagine a gunslinger with some sort of divine magic power who can walk down the street ready for a...
You have missed him talking about things that we've already talked about.
I see I am back as the video ends.
Yeah, we're not pausing too much. Could use gunblades. That's true. Gunblades did exist. That is a thing.
They were stupid.
I love gunblades. They're so dumb. I love them.
Yeah,
they're so stupid. But they're cool.
In DS9,
They're
they
very
had
Final Fantasy-esque.
yes,
Yeah.
which is why they used it. In DS9,
Did
they
really?
Gunblade was in 8, Final Fantasy 8.
I've actually never played a Final Fantasy game.
Oh wow, there you go.
You're not missing a whole lot, honestly.
I've
think-
only seen one movie.
Was it Spirits Within?
It was the one where like
Advent
there's
Children.
no, it's like
Oh, okay.
you. There was a person who was taking down like a behemoth
Okay,
by like throwing a dagger and then teleporting to where the dagger landed.
sure. I don't know that
And
one.
It struck me as super cool because I designed something very similar.
Yeah.
And it gave me like the biggest like I felt validated.
Fair. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, you and me have fought the behemoth and killed it many times. We know it's not that fucking easy.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a bitch to be honest.
Kind of a bitch.
Yeah. I've played quite a few Final Fantasies, and I like the one that I liked the most was 6. I think it is the one with the Magitech stuff, and also the Final Fantasy kind of it's a combined thing of like magic technology and the magic and such in that world. I would recommend it. It's a fun time.
The Magi technology until Symphonia.
Yeah, except Magitech in 6 had like full mech suits that you could use.
Well,
such.
in Tales of Symphonia, there were like computers and shit.
That's right. I do remember that. That one
Yeah.
felt way too futuristic, honestly.
Yeah,
I
it
wasn't so into that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I
I basically just kind of ignored it because I mean, to be fair, it was basically just kind of a MacGuffin.
Dude, I'm not a big fan of Symphonia, I'll be honest. Like, the story of it isn't too great. I ain't going on and on about that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to talk about with the video.
What?
So-
Yeah.
It's not because it's bad. It's 'cause
No,
it's good.
exactly. It's good. He's just doing all this stuff that we pointed out. In DS9, they had a teleporting sniper round. I wonder if you might do the same thing in a fantasy setting. You could.
Yeah, you could.
Definitely.
I would definitely make it where it's like impossible to get for the players, and make it basically like, how did this murder take place? Oh shit, it was a teleporting sniper rifle.
Well,
round,
so
you know,
when you think about it, magic missile always hits. It
can be stopped.
It can be stopped if you notice it, right?
Yeah.
But also like.
Oh, but what I mean is, can't it like it can only hit what you can see though, because you can only cast it on things that you target.
They did change it so that, or they didn't change it, but it is like a range increment that you have to worry about, right? And it doesn't do that much damage and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
very survivable. What I'm saying is that you can make something similar to magic missile, and then have that be the bullet round, and all that kind of stuff.
What's wrong with casting magic missile at the darkness?
Right, there's nothing.
Because darkness isn't a thing. You can't target it.
Darkness is a thing. Yeah, I can
target
it with
the absence of light.
I can target it with dispel magic, dude. What do you mean? It's a bubble of darkness.
Magical darkness. Yes. Okay, you said just the darkness.
Well, it is the darkness, dude. Anyway.
But darkness is just the absence of light.
Shut
it is
up,
literally
dude.
void.
Shut
Fuck off.
But what do I do about the gazebo?
Well, that's the thing.
I don't know. I don't get that one.
Oh, you don't know that one? Oh, you
No,
should
I
look
don't
up
know
the
that
D&D gazebo at some point. So Final Fantasy XIV also has gunblades, and yes, Kefka is a good villain. Unfortunately, I never beat him, but I got to the end boss and I lost every time. I like that story a lot, but I'm really bad at the game in the sense of I didn't grind at all. Really. Anyway, let's continue.
Face in, and as he draws his revolver, you see that 5 more spectral revolvers rise up from his billowing coat and fire 6 shots simultaneously.
Be super cool.
That could be cool. The fourth and final thing to think about, which is less specific about firearms, but more about your story or game in general, but what kind of tone are you going for?
Okay.
Your tone is going to be really important in thinking about how you're implementing guns. If you're going for a really irreverent, sort of funny and wacky sort of setting, then perhaps your guns are going to be a little more wild, a little more prone to misfiring, ricocheting, and bouncing around doing wacky and zany things like that. If you're doing something that's a little more gritty, a little more grimdark and realistic, you might then think about implementing very bad consequences for misfiring and ensuring that you have to keep your gun clean and maintained every day, lest it blows up in your face, dealing damage to yourself and potentially other people. If it's a gritty survival, then perhaps ammunition is scarce, and it is something that you have to hoard and keep serious track of. If you're going for a mystery story or some sort of horror, perhaps people aren't typically allowed to hold firearms on their person, and you have to try and conceal them and ensure that they aren't spotted by your adversaries or by the city guard. So that's it. Those are 4 things to think about before implementing firearms. What kind of technology, what kind of guns are you using, how common are they going to be, how has the world changed or not changed because of their presence, and then finally, what kind of tone are you going for? Think of those things. If you have answers to those, put them down in the comments. I would love to read them, love to hear about how you're thinking about implementing or not implementing firearms. The next video is either going to be looking more specifically at some mechanics for different games, or it's going to be on the starter set again. I've got a video series, we're looking at Lost Mines of Fingal, Fangle, Flap, Fandelver, that one. You can click up there, you can go watch those. You can also click on other things on the screen in a second to watch other stuff, subscribe, all of the usual things.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I just kind of let him go, because, like, okay, so this guy only has 107 subscribers. Hey, you out there, in YouTube land or in, right now, in the chat, go sub to this guy. He seems to be pretty good. Quite a fan of this video, at least. So, good first impression. I'll give you that much.
So I'm gonna have to be the bearer of bad news. Honestly, these videos have been so good and so impossible to comment on that I'm fucking fading, man.
That's fine, dude. If you
like, I'm dying here.
All right. Well, this is the thing. Since we've only gone for an hour and 40 minutes or so. So what I was thinking of is Aiden had a thing. Aiden had a thing that he had saved for us to read off at some point, I think. Remember? Yeah. So we can
the host source channel.
Yes. So I can go and get that, and we can do that. And then end it off after saying a few things.
How long is it?
It is long.
Oh, it's long.
If you're not feeling it, definitely we can like save it for another time, or like.
Well, I mean, you guys could just 2-man it, couldn't you?
Well, that's the other thing. If Aiden also, if you want to stick around for it,
I want to see Boo's reaction.
Okay, all right. So we can wait for it for another time. That's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. You're absolutely fine. If you wanna peace out, we can just look for something else to maybe find a Garibay video, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, then I'm gonna go ahead and head out. You guys, Godspeed, you magnificent bastards. And I've reached my final form. I managed to sculpt some hams out of green stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm dead serious.
That's
I'm
good.
putting the ham when I get my horror specs. I'm gonna have him holding 2 giant hams.
Amazing.
Okay.
That's gonna be Eat Master.
But why isn't he holding eggs too?
Because I can't sculpt a plate with eggs on it.
Well,
harder than you think.
Someone needs
or won't.
Both.
There you go.
I'm out. Bye.
Yeah, see ya.
Have fun.
Yeah. All right.
I've never thought of the ham as being green, only the eggs.
Yeah, green eggs and ham, yeah. You're right.
Green eggs and nondescript ham.
Exactly. When people say the darkness, I think of the band and I think of the band that did I Believe in a Thing Called Love. There you go. And this is kind of like Firearms ASMR. That's true. That's true. It was very calming today. We didn't have too much to say.
That's why I'm subbed to Ahoy.
Oh, yeah, Ahoy is great.
Hearing him talk about the M1 Grand, like,
Yep, oh man, great channel. He's one of those ones where he puts out a video and you immediately go, well, I gotta watch that.
Looks like my afternoon is gone.
Anyway, so thank you to all of our patrons. Hey, it's the midpoint, and I'm gonna thank you now. So, thank you to Draco Kraken. You've changed your name to reflect your name on YouTube and on Discord. Thanks. Keeps me from messing up. So hey, Draco Kraken.
Having to use a modicum of critical thought. Thank you.
Right, my brain.
Small brain, very smooth.
So smooth. But yes, thank you to Draco Kraken for being at tier 3. Appreciate it immensely, as well as Mog Zero, also at that tier 3, and Slazer hanging out at tier 3, and Steely, all at tier 3. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. It's insane that you guys give us money. And then, of course, Drake Cross at that tier 2. Ridiculous that you do that. Thanks. Appreciate it. Hope you continue to enjoy. And then, of course, we have Chris at tier 1, Frozen Spaghetti at tier 1, and Kill Chrono at tier 1. Hope you're enjoying everything, and appreciate all of your support and getting us to the first goal, I guess, on the page for maintaining this podcast. Appreciate it. Anyway, other than that, of course, you can, if you remember, this is not an obligation. If you want to support us,
donate.
If you want to support us in any way, you can either donate through the link that you can find in chat through the bot, or on our website, or you can donate through the Patreon. And again, it's not an obligation. Only do it if
you have a veritable bevy of options.
You do, and only do it if you are financially able and want to. Don't feel like it's an obligation.
The pandemic has hit everyone hard.
Yes.
Only do it if you can and want to.
Yes. Absolutely.
Joking aside.
So you can find it at TableTalk, or sorry, you can find the Patreon at patreon.com/TableTalkDND. And again, if you want to find all information you can, go to our website, TableTalkDND.us. That is a thing. It's been a thing, and your Patreon money is going to help keep it up and alive. So thank you. And other than that, there is, of course, the shirts that you can get with our logo on them, or the masks, or the mugs, or whatever you want through TeePublic. It's another way to support. Again, it's just a physical thing you can get in exchange for your money if you don't want to donate to the Patreon or anything like that. Like, you can have something in return. Wow. Other than just the podcast. Wow. But yeah, so there's also that. That's everything there. So, again, thank you if you do buy anything or donate or anything. Again, it's incredibly appreciated, because it's fucking insane if you do so. So, let's find something. Let's find us a Garibay video, huh?
Oh boy, I didn't think we were actually going to do it, and now my heart's all a titter in excitement.
Oh, good.
Oh my goodness, here.
I'll find something, hopefully. Let's see. It's not easy to maintain a smooth brain. You gotta polish it every day and shit. A lot of work. That is true, Steely. You are correct. You are.
I gotta fall
absolutely
asleep
correct.
listening to Garibay videos.
I mean, he's the only one that knows anything. Let's see if we can hit the mother lode and find maybe gun. Let's see. Let's see.
Oh, I'm craving it. I need it. I hunger for it.
This is on movies. Comedy is an invasive species into your Dungeons and Dragons 5e campaign. What?
Oh, yes.
What?
Yes.
This is I searched gun, and that's one of the things that came up. It was the third video. What is happening? Okay, well everyone, get ready. Apparently comedy bad.
Out off their hands.
So let us see. Oh man. All right. Here we go.
Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today
hold yourself, Garrett. What is this quality? Oh,
Ooh.
very much.
Scott, your face looks very fuzzy, and I'm not talking about your beard.
This is I think it's just worse lighting because it's later in the day, or the clouds are out or something, and his phone isn't getting enough lighting. So it's very fuzzy, but man,
it looks almost like it's raining too.
Yeah, that's true. So, well, everyone, let's watch the scuffed Garibay video. Yeah,
living that 144p life.
Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk to you about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and understanding comedy as an invasive species to probably 99% of all Dungeons & Dragons existing campaigns.
Wow. Okay.
Probably 99% of all Dungeons & Dragons existing campaigns.
The irony of this video is it itself is comedy.
Well, hey, he might have a point. Let's let him get there.
I'm not even willing to entertain the possibility of critical thought coming from him.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, let's jump into this. So I've been thinking a lot about comedy, and you can find comedy in almost every single Dungeons & Dragons game.
Nope.
And I want to talk today about cutting comedy out of the game.
Why?
And the reason why is, one, I think it needs to happen. So why would we cut comedy out of Dungeons & Dragons?
Yeah.
Well,
why?
First of all,
tell me.
I love every one of you.
Okay.
I just love each and every one of you. Thanks
We're
so
not
much
all
for
funny.
coming to the channel. But I have to tell you, so Dungeons & Dragons, the goals that the Dungeons & Dragons community should have for Dungeons & Dragons, I am talking about peak D&D. I am talking about Dungeons & Dragons used for society modeling. Dungeons & Dragons.
All right, Scott, you alone tell me what we as a community should decide.
So D&D society, okay.
We live in a society.
I was gonna say, what the fuck? When did this come out? Hold on. My brain hurts now, like a lot.
Was it April 1st?
I fucking hope so. May 4th, 2021. What? This was 14 days ago.
Oh no, it was 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
It reminds me of BlizzCon, where they announced the new Blizzard game was going to be mobile only.
Don't you all have phones?
No. The fan asked, is this an out of season April Fool's joke?
Right. Yes, that's right. Oh my god. Oh, it's loading on my end now. Oh, okay. Let me refresh real quick.
It's paused. Okay.
It's just loading forever on my end, so that's fun.
I love when one man says what we as a community should strive for.
Yeah, I know, right?
Instead of leaving it up to the community
Yeah, you would think.
Hey, everybody, this is what you should prioritize. This is what you want out of the game.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no, shut up about what you want out of the game. Let me tell you about what you want out of the game.
Exactly. Thank you for speaking for all of us. And like, to be fair, we've all made, you know, our assumptions on the community, but again, we preface, we assume. And we don't say we speak for everyone usually. So
it reminds me of Team 4 Stars Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
okay.
Lord Super Kami Guru says, "Hush, Nail, I'm speaking for you."
That's right. That's true. I now have to amend the title. It's Firearms and Fantasy TTRPGs, and comedy is an invasive species?
Question mark?
4 characters too long. We have a long title. Okay, I'll take away okay, comedy, comma, invasive species? That works. I'll figure out later. It's scuffed at the moment, but fuck it. It's fine. Anyway, let's continue.
At its pinnacle with the best players and the best dungeon masters. I am talking about Dungeons & Dragons surpassing other industries, right? Taking the tabletop role-playing game role industry and dragging it past the board game.
God, it's so blurry.
Past the video game industry, right? If you are like, oh, Dungeons & Dragons is a game, and if you're doing it right, if you're having fun, you're doing it right. If everybody's having fun, you're doing it right. You can go find that nonsense commentary on any number of channels, 100 channels that I can
Wait,
point you
hold
to,
on.
right?
I was typing to my friend. What did he say was nonsense commentary?
That if you're playing the game and you're having fun, then it's fine. Like,
okay.
Okay, so again, he said that we need to focus on the peak, the best of the best players, the best of the best DMs to elevate D&D past everything else.
Yeah.
And it's like
of D&D.
Right, and I'm over here going, okay, so your definition of the best and my definition of the best seem to be different here. So
yeah, my definition of the best seems to be D&D where everyone's having a blast.
Yeah, and I don't see why your definition of D&D is better than my definition of D&D. Could you maybe, I don't know, give me some sort of references or something to actually convince me of that? Because when you just say it, I'm over here going, well, I can just say things too.
There's no, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like checklist, agenda, itinerary of what a campaign is supposed to hit before it can be qualified as a good campaign.
Oh my god.
I ain't squawking about that. I'm talking about peak D&D.
The beautiful stuff. Tell me, Garrett.
Understanding what Dungeons & Dragons is and pushing for the best, right? Getting the best games played and allowing Dungeons & Dragons
Tell me what the best is.
Wear every crown it deserves.
What?
Right? It's more than a game, and I want it to
not that McDonald's shit that everyone enjoys.
An invasive
that Five Guys shit.
All right, so how is that, right? So one,
can't have the cockroach of comedy in your burger joint of D&D.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I think my end is actually fucking up. Hey, if you're in chat right now, is everything going alright? Because it seems like no, I'm still live. Okay, weird. It's like an error occurred and everything. I think my end is just having a bad day. Fun. Good. Well, it's still being recorded and stuff, and it still says it's streaming, so I think we're okay. Anyway.
This is very real. Comedy, because people seek joy, which I totally... most people don't seek joy. They seek happiness, right? And I will say, you know...
Sorry, doesn't joy mean happiness? Isn't that the same fucking thing, Garabay?
Happiness is technically defined as everlasting joy. No, sorry, joy is defined as everlasting happiness.
Exactly.
Sorry.
So, like, okay,
So they instead seek out the temporary instead of the permanent.
Yeah.
I can sort of see where you're going if we interpret this metaphysically.
Right. But I don't know if that's what he's saying.
I don't think that's his intent.
No.
I also love his sentence of, everyone seeks out joy, right? Well, not everyone doesn't really seek out joy.
This does not spark joy. I think he's mixing up D&D with video games if he wants some sort of hardcore competition for elite gameplay. Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know what he's fucking talking about. Because, like, what is peak D&D? Is it going to conventions? Is it having a show in which like, there are so many qualifiers that we would need to have in order to actually say this is the best D&D. But there is
MLG D&D.
Right, exactly. There is nothing that we have that says that, though, because it is all up to each table. There is no universal way of which we have to play D&D.
I would be, like, writhing with curiosity to talk to Garabay's, like, the other people that have been at his table.
Yeah.
And just be like, tell me a story.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, this is the thing. I wonder if they also think the same way, right?
I know, that's half of it.
Okay,
Do they think the same way? Do they not?
Okay. Yeah.
This is definitely a Scott Garibay thing. I just don't see the purpose of my life to seek happiness. A lot of people do.
Okay.
That ain't me, right?
Sure.
Like, basically, I want to perform well. I want to drive toward goals. I want to achieve. And frankly, and that's what my life's about, right? And I feel like, and
that's
I'm not the
valid.
only person to say this, but the best way to never find happiness is to seek it. Like, I'll tell you that right now. And there's nothing on this planet like that. But because everyone on...
Okay, so don't look for it and you won't find it. That's pretty cool. I like that mentality, you dick.
I was actually reaching over to pause it. I actually kind of like that saying, actually.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I'm less about it because it's like, I don't know, man.
Happiness is by its own nature transient.
Sure.
And fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
And the second that you pursue something with, like, your brow furrowed, like your goal is your happiness, that is the most way that you will assuredly not reach it.
Yeah.
So I can see that, but at the same time, there are certain benefits to be said of, like, getting a job in your passion or pursuing your passion in your hobbies, like D&D.
Right.
Huh. Shocker.
Yeah. Well, okay. I understand it, I guess, from that perspective. It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know, man. When you tell somebody they can't find something, it's like, you know, it just feels weird.
On this planet is seeking happiness. They often mistake laughter for happiness, right? But the reality is, a lot of comedy comes from incredibly cruel places. A lot of comedy comes from an incredible amount of broken people. You know how I know that? I listened to Mark Maron's podcast. He interviewed hundreds of brick wall comedians, the best in the world. And I'll tell you right now, it is kind of hard to find a well-balanced comedian, right? Like, from a mental health perspective. They'll tell you that, not me, right? Like, just go listen, right?
That's absolutely
Mark
fair.
Maron's podcast is a museum of fundamentally outrageously brilliant comedians who are fundamentally broken, right?
Yo, this is Alejo, and you're
It's
listening
like
to TableTalk.
Every other one telling them, I'm so broken from the gate, and I'm still broken now. Like, just a conga line of them, right? So the idea that comedy is happiness is a confusion of the human state. Okay?
nobody's claiming that comedy itself is happiness, though. I don't think. What I would say is that it's a way to look at your current situation and kind of find something that you can, I don't know, laugh at and like relieve some tension or something. Like it's a release, I guess, but not necessarily just me trying to find happiness.
So there is and this is like the only quote I remember. I never got through the book, but
Okay.
This quote stood out to me. There is a quote in the Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis.
Okay.
It's about like a devil that is sending letters to his nephew on how to like tempt a person.
Sure.
But there's a quote and it's laughing is an egregious bubbling of happiness from the soul or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically saying like when the nephew like heard the person laughing, like he messaged his uncle and was like, what do I do? How do I make him depressed? And his uncle was like, it's yeah, when they laugh, it's awful. So the reason why a lot of depressed people seek out comedy as a defense mechanism, so to speak, is because what a lot of depressed people think in common is whoever you see who's happy-go-lucky and laughing and is like a comedic genius, there's no way that they could be depressed, right? So I will mimic them and I will be funny, and then no one will suspect me of having the issues that I have.
Sure, yeah.
Plus also being depressed is does some weird things with perspective, I guess. It opens up a different way of looking at things where you can find comedy in something that might not be comedic.
Yeah.
But anyway, ignoring the whole concept of depression because that's way above my pay grade.
Sure.
I would not say that humor is itself a sign you are broken.
No.
I would say it can be.
It's not a symptom, definitely. It's just it's coincidental at best.
Yeah. It's like saying like, oh, you have a fever, that means you must have a cold.
Yes.
When it can be any other of a lot of reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, we don't have anybody watching at the moment because something has happened on YouTube's end or something, because like the stream was choppy or whatever. We'll keep going, but probably after this video we'll just be done, and it'll just be a VOD that people have to go and watch. So apologies to everybody who was in chat who got disconnected or thought the stream went down or something. I hope you're enjoying the VOD.
No, it's live on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I know, but I've seen a couple of people say like the stream keeps cutting out or there's connection issues with only our stream. So
oh yeah, I just got some. Okay.
Yeah, so there's something on YouTube's end, I think.
Alright.
I don't know, because my end like seems to be okay for the most part, but also not. So I don't know. But again, hopefully the video will be fine. So yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
All right. So once we understand that, let's talk about invasive species. So let's talk about an invasive species. Let me explain an invasive species.
Yes. Is it not playing for you?
No, it's loading.
Fantastic. This is when the curse of Garibay is like, hey man, stop.
Hold on, I'm gonna try something real quick.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
It's working.
Cool.
All right. So once we understand that, let's talk about invasive species.
Did it stop working?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me do this.
Oh.
Let me refresh.
It's not a TableTalk stream without technical difficulties. Woo!
And loading. So Garibay, though.
What do you mean?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
that was where that
thought ended. Well,
I was hoping you would pick up that point and kind of run with it.
So I will say, what I will say is that this is like, if his point is people are like that do comedy aren't like totally mentally sound, and thus comedy in your D&D games is bringing it down, because that's the impression that I'm getting now. It's fucking weird.
That's the impression I'm getting too.
Yeah, that's fucking weird and bad, and oh my god, why would you say something that even implies that? I don't understand where you're coming from.
That funny person, you know, depressed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm fucking depressed, but like...
Yeah, same.
Right, it's like, I don't think... I mean, just because of the way I am, I don't think I'm funny. And it's like, but if somebody did and they went, you're just funny because you're depressed, I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? And then like,
I can come up with good bits. That's
sure.
about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you're bringing down my D&D game. It's not peak D&D because you're funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, so your logic is I'm depressed, so I shouldn't be playing D&D with you. Fuck you.
If you are funny, then you are mentally ill and you are somehow or another lesser.
Right, exactly. It's not a good implication that I have here. So I hope you don't have that as your thought there, Garibay, because when you talk about invasive species, if you're anywhere close to that, it's like, man, I don't like this at all.
See, where I was initially thinking, okay, hold on, this isn't loading for me. I'm just gonna refresh.
Okay.
Where I thought this was going is that everyone in a campaign where comedy is prevalent,
yeah,
tends to feel an obsessive need to like one up each other.
Yeah.
And as such, you can totally lose the tone
Yeah.
of your campaign to just people trying to be funny.
Absolutely.
Which is a fair concern.
Yeah.
I tend to go for darker campaigns, but I like using comedy to sort of break that up. And I will like discuss a woman propped up by thorns like surrounding her body or something.
Sure.
And in her mouth is an immovable rod.
Sure, yeah.
That the players get and then like give to the harpy child that they adopted. And then I will also discuss like how the harpy child that they adopted has made friends with the kids at the local orphanage, and they are now going to a store that is opening today because it's a candy store. And there's a kid who's like a little baby Asimar, except they're not an Asimar because it doesn't fit the world, but instead they have a cardboard cutout of like a backpack, and they pull a string on it and wings appear.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I like using humor to give a little bit of like levity and like relax things out before like delving back into like where things can get a bit darker, because it does two things. One, it makes you more acutely aware of like when things are fucked up.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of become numb to it after a while. But when there's humor making things light, and then all of a sudden now you need to talk to the captain, who all his friends and family died on the ship when it was shipwrecked, and now he's stranded in a town that is on the opposite end of the continent than where he is from, and he will never see anyone he knows again. Like, it makes you more aware of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Of the human state.
And it also makes you more aware of the comedy too, but I cannot get this video loading.
Is it not loading for you at all?
State. Okay?
No, it's just I'm
permanently
like loading circling.
So
okay, because it's playing on my end.
Oh no, it's
Yeah.
not playing on my end.
Okay, alright. Well, then I think, honestly, at this point, we've had so many fucking issues, we might have to end early.
Okay.
Which sucks, but,
God damn it,
yeah.
I love Garibay videos,
I know. We'll have to come back to it or something, but hopefully, now, I will say, for the VOD and everything, of course, if this is not what he's implying, if that's not what he's, like what I said before, if that's not what he's implying, if, you know, I'll take it all back, of course. But even,
yeah, I'm willing to be wrong.
Exactly, I hope I'm wrong.
I bet he's implying something even worse.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Okay, I've got a thing from Steely, in fact. He sent me a thing on Discord, said, stream's pretty much unlistenable for me since about the start of the Garibay video, although the issues started before that. I have restarted YouTube and even my phone. I have also switched networks, no luck. Had the issues before, but never this bad, and I always thought it was me. Interesting.
Okay.
So, I don't know if that's my end, because, again, I've been doing my own personal, like, streams and stuff, and they've been fine. But that was on Twitch, so, like, that's a whole different server and everything. But usually, everybody else is pretty fine on YouTube for this show. So, I don't know. But maybe I hope it's just a this week issue and it doesn't persist. Because that would suck. Like a lot. But, yeah, so sorry, out there, if you, again, and, hopefully it fixes itself, because I have no idea what the issue is, on my end. So, I'll do some tests, I'll try to figure some stuff out, I'll do some research, but ultimately, it's a shorter one today, boys. Sorry. But yeah.
It's not the shortest we've recorded.
I think it is, because 2 minutes, or sorry, 2 hours and 16 is where we're at. And
okay.
That is the shortest, I think. But anyway, thanks again to our patrons. I will show you again on screen. Draco Kraken, Mog Zero, Slazer, Steely, Drake Cross, Chris, Frozen Spaghetti, and Kill Chrono. Really appreciate you, and again, sorry that this one isn't up to the standard, or at least my standard. So, yeah, we'll see you in the next one, I guess, next week.
I'm your second host. It's Sneaky Adolf.
Yeah. So, goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.